Welcome back to the Berg podcast. Thanks for joining us today. With me today, Bryan, is Ford.
Hey, how are you?
And Nate.
Hello. Good morning.
And we're going to introduce special guests with us today, Nate Hoffer. And Nate is the Executive Director of Good Samaritan Services. And Nate, would you just give us a little background, a little bio?
Yes, absolutely. So thanks for having me here, guys. So I've been with Good Sam for a little over 13 years, live in Ephrata, have done nonprofit work all of my life, and really just grateful for the opportunity to work at Good Sam. We're all about helping people who are experiencing a hard time. You know, I say all the time, the work that we do is not rocket science. It's really not. We just try to meet folks where they are, see them, and make sure that we're responding in a really compassionate and generous way. And we do that in a lot of communities. We're in Ephrata, Phoenixville, Coatesville, Lancaster City, and just last week we officially expanded to Kennett Square.
Oh, wow.
There's a men's shelter down there that gifted us their property for Good Sam to continue to run. So 5 communities across Lancaster and Chester counties, serving up to about 250 men, women, children a day in our shelter and housing programs.
That's awesome. And how long have you been with Good Sam?
13 years.
Oh, awesome. And how did you get involved?
So I got involved because so just a little bit about myself. I did not have a really great childhood, so experienced a lot of pain and some trauma during my childhood. So I knew coming out of that, entering my adult years, that I really wanted to do work that helped people with their pain, because I really empathize with that. I really connect with people who are just struggling and feel like they don't belong, feel like they're not seen, feel like they're not valuable, because that's really how I felt a lot of my life. So I knew that entering college, that's the work that I wanted to do, that I really wanted to do something where I was helping to alleviate pain for people, emotional pain. So that's the work I've always done in my life, but my life experiences really, really sort of crafted the vocation that I knew that I wanted to do. So stumbled upon, Good Sam, and just felt like a really great opportunity. At that time, we were only in Phoenixville when I started in 2009. And I say all the time that it's just a job for me that really fits like a glove. It really is, because every single day I get to, in some way, do work that is making life a little bit easier, making life a little bit better. I get to do work that, like I said, just alleviates some of the pain that people experience. And there's a lot of people in pain. There's a lot of people struggling. A lot of people in our communities, when we talk about homelessness not being in a major metropolitan area like a Philadelphia, sometimes we can think that it doesn't exist because we don't see it. But the poverty and the homelessness in our communities across Lancaster and Chester counties is more hidden. But it doesn't mean that it's not there. There's a tremendous amount of people who are going through a hard time.
Yeah, we've talked about that a little bit. Ford and I actually just earlier we were meeting with somebody else, it's interesting. We drive through communities that we live in, relatively rural, Lancaster County, Chester County, and driving down Main Street, you don't see it, right? I mean, when you see shopping districts and you see well-developed rural communities, suburban communities, you don't necessarily see poverty or homelessness, right?
Well, especially, Lancaster County, there's more space. So someone's facility that they're living in that might not really be a great space for them, but it's off in the woods or it's back off a driveway, so you're not seeing it. And then we're working in Chester County, and a lot of Chester County is very affluent. We're building people houses that have huge price tags on them, or big warehouses, and there's lots of dollars going around. So you're just not seeing it the way. And usually we're going down highways to get to places. We're not going down the little back road, because most of the projects, where the access point is the most important thing for the value of that property. So it's off of a big road. It's a 30, a 82, something like that. You're not turning down that little back road that you've driven past 100 times and seeing what's back there or where the people live in that situation. And I think that's one thing that in our community, Not that we just don't see it, and so it's not in our face, and so we aren't able to grasp exactly how big the need actually is.
Hmm.
And so I think that's one thing that is important to being part of some of these different groups that do stuff with this, is because we just don't see it until you get the data,
Mm-mm.
and all of a sudden they'll share the data at some of their fundraiser events, and you're just like, wow, really? Like you just on a daily basis, you drive where you drive, and you just don't see it, and if it's not in your face, you
Right.
just if all of us go to Philadelphia or
Hmm.
New York or something, and you see someone on a bench or out on the street looking for money,
Right.
you see that. But
Yeah.
in our communities, we don't have a lot of that exact thing,
Hmm.
so we just
Hmm.
don't get to
Yeah.
feel it until we actually dig in, and
Right.
your guys get to actually get
Hmm.
into that community, and we miss it a lot because we're doing other things and we're so busy.
Yeah, it's presentation, a lot of it, right? I mean, you think about a lot of times you've seen a campaign trying to raise awareness to homelessness
Hmm.
or community need. And what do they show you? They show you urban areas, and they show you, homeless camps under overpasses, and that's generally speaking not the experience that you see in rural Lancaster County
Hmm.
or such. So
So what you're talking about, and Ford, what you were talking about, the visible homelessness, that's what we would say is the chronic homelessness, the individuals who have been homeless for a lot of their life, and that's a segment of homelessness. That's not a lot of what we see in Lancaster and Chester counties. A lot of what we see here with the work that we do and with the clients that we serve is what we call situational homelessness, not folks who have been homeless for the last 5 years. It's a single mom who lost her job or who had a medical crisis. It's a guy who had a mental health episode and lost his job, and his spouse left him, and things spiraled. It's an episode in their life, and that's a lot of what we see at Good Sam. And the federal government defines homelessness a certain way, and it's a very narrow definition. It is people who are literally outside. Fortunately, at Good Sam, because we don't receive a lot of government funding, we serve folks who fall outside of that little box. So what we serve at Good Sam is a lot of people who maybe they're living in a what we would call a doubled up situation. That would be if you're living on a friend's couch. So the federal government wouldn't recognize you as being homeless in that scenario. So you wouldn't be eligible for any of their benefits. But at Good Sam, we do see that as someone who is experiencing housing instability, and that's a lot of what we serve. Folks who are there's a situation, there's an episode in their life that has caused them to go through a hard time. But it's also alarming when you think that in Ephrata, one of the communities that we're in, most people think of Ephrata, rural, Amish, picturesque, right? So in Ephrata, and that's where I live. So that's that's why it's easy for me to talk about it. I have three little kids we're sending through the school system there. Ephrata has over 50% of the school age children, and Ephrata is a big district. Over 50% qualify for free or reduced lunch, meaning that their household income meets the federal poverty guidelines. Over 50% in our community where I live. So then it's really so what is happening in Ephrata, which is, I know this because from speaking with school administrators and principals, so many kids in our school district, you know, hotels, motels, sleeping with grandma, grandpa, maybe occasionally sleeping in their car, just a tremendous amount of instability and extreme poverty. So then, but it's hidden, right? You're not seeing it. The kids are going to school. Mom might be working a job, making a minimum wage somewhere. They're not walking down Main Street Ephrata pushing a shopping cart, right? But but they're still experiencing a tremendous amount of housing instability. So then also in Ephrata, what might surprise some people is that we operated a winter shelter program in Ephrata this past season. It was open December 1 through the end of March. And the whole idea of this winter shelter was to make sure that no one was sleeping outside during the winter months. So no questions asked. You come in any time of night. We had staff that were awake all night. No drug tests, nothing. You come in and get a warm place to sleep and two meals. We served 77 people, 77 unique individuals, men and women, in a 4-month period of time in Ephrata,
Right.
who otherwise would have been outside in their car. Now, we did have folks come to us from New Holland, from Lidditz, Denver, but still, the northern Lancaster County, where, people, the stereotype, I think, is, that homelessness is in Lancaster City,
Right.
probably 77 people in a 4-month period of time. So the issue is a lot larger than what we tend to think, and it's complicated too. Homeless, a lot of times, when someone is thinking about homelessness, they think, well, if they just did this or just did that, and there's an element to that for sure, which is true. But what we see at Good Sam is that we actually serve more people with mental health issues than drug and alcohol addiction issues. And I think a common stereotype of homelessness is, well, they're probably alcoholics or this or that. And again, there's an element of that, which is true. But we actually serve more folks with PTSD, trauma, bipolar, schizophrenia. These are major debilitating mental health afflictions that, when go untreated, and I've seen this so many times in 13 years at Good Sam, there's a mental health affliction, something happens, you're not taking your medication, all of a sudden you're not performing well at work, your employer cuts you loose. Things get a little difficult at home because you lost your job, you're not bringing in income, spouse, the relationship falls apart, and it just snowballs. So it can be, homelessness can be complicated. It can take a long time then to sort of unpack that and to help someone get back up on their feet. Also, for single parents, it's really, imagine you're a single mom, and a lot of what we serve at Good Sam is single moms. Imagine you have 2 or 3 kids. You are making $10 an hour. You're paying $1,200 a month in rent. You got to get the kids to daycare here, there. You have a car with 220,000 miles on it that's passed inspection. It just takes like one little thing in that scenario to fall apart, to kind of create an avalanche of consequences. So a lot of what we serve at Good Sam, it isn't just the cut and dry, well, get a job. A lot of what we serve at Good Sam are people who actually do have a job, but it's other life situations and circumstances. So yes, poverty, homelessness, it's hidden, but it's also it's more complicated
Mhm.
than sometimes what we think.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, getting back to like what you guys actually do. So you act, from my understanding, you have actual facilities with
Mhm.
like rooms for people or living facilities,
Mhm.
but then you also have programs to try and help them, because you said it's situational, a lot of it. So it's not
Right.
just long term. So you're trying to figure out how to kind of get them back on the path. They fell off by their choice or by a situation with
Mm-hmm.
their mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're now go, okay, you're in this spot now, but how are we going to get you out of this spot long term? It's
Mm-hmm.
not like, this is not your permanent residence for the next 30 years. This is, how can we get you back to standing on your own 2 feet, which is for most people the most important thing, that they can stand on their own 2 feet, and there's a feeling of accomplishment for them in that position.
That's right, and that's what we're all about. The phrase we use all the time at Good Sam is, we're just in the business of moving people from crisis to stability, crisis to stability, alleviating that pain, right? That you're in crisis. What do we got to do to move you to where you're stable? That's really what we want to see for everybody. So when you look at Good Sam, a lot of our resources are spent on social workers. Like, we're not just a place for people to live. We're not just a shelter or a place for people to crash. We're a program. We're very much intentional about holding people accountable, walking with people, and establishing goals and saying, listen, in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, you have to be out of here. Where are you going to be? What does that look like? How can we help you? So a lot of social work help. I'm really excited that in July we have a counselor. We've hired 2 counselors, 2 licensed clinical social workers in house on staff. We were fortunate that we received some grant funding to be able to pay for these positions. So we're going to have an in-house mental health program, which I'm wildly ecstatic about, because the problem that we have right now is sometimes it can take months for some of our clients to get connected to a counselor. And then there's insurance and there's payment and there's transportation and there's all these complications. So imagine now someone on a Monday moves into our shelter, and on Tuesday, the next day, they're able to sit down with somebody and start receiving treatment. And so I'm super pumped about that. So we provide a lot of social work, counseling in house to help people. We really focus a lot too on financial empowerment and money management. That's a big part of this, right? Is we want to help educate people. So we have a match savings program. If they save $600, we'll match it dollar for dollar. That's to incentivize people to set a budget, to put money in savings, to open up a bank account, and to do things like that. We also give loans. We give loans up to $2,500. We partner with Effort National Bank that they will give a loan to any of our clients, regardless of their credit. And the important thing about that, guys, and the reason why I love that program so much is on their own merit, a client of Good Sam would not qualify for a bank loan due to their credit score. I mean, their credit really takes a beating before they come to us. So if they went to the bank, there's no way they would get a bank loan. But the problem with that, how do you repair your credit if you can't get a loan? So the bank they'll sit down with someone in any of our programs and they will approve a loan up to $2,500. The beauty of that is three things. It really instills a tremendous amount of confidence in our clients. They're like, wow, I got a bank loan. That's a really cool thing. And then they get the cash they need. They get up to $2,500. So people will use that to buy a car, to make repairs on their cars. It has to be for a specific goal. But then the real beauty of it is that the payments are spread out over 3 years. So that we've seen people increase their credit scores by up to 300 points in that process. And the reason why that's so important is because credit impacts employment, it impacts housing. So it really is this empowering tool that we give people to improve their situation. So there's a lot that we do. There's a tremendous amount that we do at Good Sam just to try to get people from crisis to stability. We give a lot of rental support too. We provide about $120,000 a year writing checks to landlords across Lancaster and Chester counties to prevent homelessness. So, Good Sam, we don't just have shelters for people who are actually homeless. We spend a lot of time helping people to not even get into that situation. So we do everything from emergency shelters to eviction prevention. So any of our offices, if we're equipped to take a phone call from a family, an individual, hey, I'm in a lease, I lost my job, I'm 2 months behind in my rent. Okay, let's figure out how we can step in and provide you with resources. But again, it's not just a check that we get sent to the landlord. They have to agree to enroll in our program and to receive case management, to work on the budgeting, to think about, do we need to find another job? Do we need to find another place to live? So it's a tremendous amount of work. It's a tremendous amount of effort, but that's what it takes. That's really what it takes to help people move from crisis to stability.
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit earlier, and Berg's fortunately had the opportunity a couple times to be involved in events that you've done. But obviously, Nate, the one thing that you keep talking about, but hasn't necessarily been addressed in the conversation is money, right? I know you said not very much of that comes from the federal government. So, what aside, we know about some of the sponsorship event type opportunities, but how does it get funded? How does this actually get done?
Well, it's a lot of faith. It's a tremendous amount of faith. 98% of our budget comes from places like Berg Construction. 2% of our budget comes from government funding. And the reason why that's good and the reason why I like that is because we have a lot of flexibility with what we do at Good Sam. I just talked about all these situations that we're able to help people in. That becomes much more cumbersome when you are tied to government contracts. People have to check a box in order to receive services. So we really value being responsive and adaptable at Good Sam because the needs of our communities are always changing. So that's why being funded so heavily with private donations is so important. So about 98% of it comes from good places like Berg Construction, and that literally keeps our shelter doors open, our programs running. We have 14 buildings across Lancaster and Chester counties. I already said, about 250 people a day. It costs us only $25 per person per day to do what we do. $25 per person per day. That's shelter, case management, supplies, food, 3 meals a day. So one of our core values at Good Sam is stewardship. Like, we really take seriously making sure that when you guys give us money, that it has a tremendous amount of impact. And that's true. So we steward that money very well, but it literally keeps us open all the time, and we never close. We're open every single day, holidays. So it's really really important for us. The only reason we're in business is because you guys are in business, and because you're doing well, and because you share your blessings, and you're generous with us. That's it. It's really not that complicated. It's the only reason we can do what we do.
Well, it's great. And actually, a question like off the side there, but just how have you seen the last 2 years? I'm sure it's spiked, right? Because we deal with it. There's just a higher level of challenge. It is what it is. Blah blah blah. But people are really, you see it more. I think it's more visual now. Maybe it's something that's transitioned in our society, that people are expressing their challenges a little bit more than maybe the old days of buckle up buttercup doesn't really play anymore. And so you're able to see, and some maybe have a conversation with someone to help them out. But I'm sure you've seen an uptick in need in the last 2 years or 2+ years now.
We really have. So our fiscal year runs July through June. So for the fiscal year that we're currently in, which started July, so we're like, what, 9, 10 months into it. We've served 475 people in our programs, and that is a 40% increase over what we did previous year. And the previous year was a 30% increase in the number that we serve. So to your point, yeah, a lot of folks definitely have seen a spike in need and in demand for our services. But the flip side of that is that we've also seen a spike in contributions to Good Sam, which I'm very thankful for. When COVID started, there was some anxiety,
You're gonna be
right?
able to keep the lights on because nobody was making money, so they can't donate anything.
Had no idea, literally preparing for the worst at Good Sam. Like, we just didn't know how it was going to impact us. But fortunately, I think what I've seen in my time at Good Sam is that when hard times happen in the world, right, and in our local communities, like, it really does. Fortunately, it seems to bring about this sense in people, especially in Lancaster and Chester counties, which are two of the most charitable counties in the state, if not the country. People seem to understand, hey, times are tough. They seem to understand the importance of supporting organizations like Good Sam, who are on the front lines of capturing people who are falling through the cracks and going through a hard time. So didn't know how people were going to respond when COVID started, but really grateful that it seemed that people, Berg and everyone else has really stepped up and have continued to support Good Sam.
Yeah, one of the neat things, yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head there, especially from based on my knowledge of Lancaster County. I'm not as familiar with Chester County, but communities where you see faith being so valued, I think communities like ours tend to understand that it's part of our duty to take care of our own people.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and that's been one thing that's really important to us here at Berg Construction. And that coming from Ford's background, Ford's value for our folks here and internally, I think translates to how we try to act in the community. We want our folks to be taken care of. They come from good communities. We want their communities to be taken care of, so that we can in turn rely on them to have those fewer concerns at home and bring fewer concerns to work,
Mm-hmm.
show up every day.
Mm-hmm.
So that's that community environment. I think you're right. Does have a big impact on people's willingness and desire to take care of their own. Make sure
Mm-hmm.
that the people they're standing shoulder to shoulder with are not unnecessarily burdened if it
That's
can be
right.
avoided.
Yeah, I mean, the difference between us is we're technically considered a for-profit, and you guys are considered a nonprofit. I mean, there's government paperwork and stuff behind the scenes on that, but The difference is the same in that, we could, I guess, take everything that comes through these doors and walk away, but we live here. Like, we're part of the problem and the solution at the same time. I mean, that's part of what we have to do, is that work with we dig dirt and help build buildings. We do not have the skills that you guys do with the social workers and things like that. So, but we can be supportive of it. It's just that we're not going to be probably not going to be taking off a Thursday and going and trying to mentor people or have conversations, because that
Right.
doesn't work so well
Right.
from our
Right.
perspective. But there is a way that we
Yeah.
can still be involved in, things that you're doing
Yes.
by monetary, or by maybe there's someone on the team wants to volunteer. I'm sure, and you have team members, but I'm sure you have things that you need volunteers for, some of that as well.
Mhm.
And you're based locally, so it's a good thing that we can do. I mean, we always talk about like what our strategies are, and one of it is it has to be something that means something to us locally.
Mhm.
There's big organizations out there that do wonderful things, but
Mhm.
you're just dumping $1 into a bucket and you have no idea what that's going to help.
Yep.
Whereas you guys are 98%
Mhm.
locally funded, so that
Mhm.
way it means it's staying here. It's not just going to somewhere else. It's helping the local people that we see every day. We might not work side by side, but we might. We don't know.
That's right.
But we're going to see them at the grocery store. Maybe we're going to see them down the street, and so they're just as much of the community as we are.
That's right. Yeah, and with 5 locations, now across Lancaster and Chester counties, there's opportunities for any of your team members to get involved. We really value another one of our core values is partnership. Like, we really love inviting volunteers and other people into our circle. Like, we fully recognize that we can't achieve our mission without the help of other people. And that's not just financial help. That is people coming in and serving meals. So if there's a family, that's like, hey, we think it would be good to introduce our kids, to the reality that some people go through a hard time. Would love to have that family come in and serve a meal occasionally at Good Sam. That's what I love about one of the things I value most about my job is that I can bring my kids along, and that my kids are growing up understanding that, hey, sometimes people go through a hard time. But what's important is how we respond to it. We don't need to criticize, judge. Like, let's just have a compassionate heart and like do something to help them. And I love that my kids are growing up with that understanding. So serving meals. If there's anyone listening who really loves babies and kids, we have a lot of single moms in our programs who would love to hand their children off for an hour or two. um Facilities, repairs, all you guys are handy folks. So if someone doesn't mind swinging a hammer, there's opportunities to get involved in that way. But just know, for the listeners, we really do value volunteers. We really respect the time that they give to us and that they pour into Good Sam.
And if folks are looking for an opportunity to get involved, what's the best way to figure out how they can help?
Check us out at goodsamservices.org. You can learn more about us and read, some of the impact stories. I mean, we're talking about real people. Like you guys have said it, and it's so true. Like, it's folks that you see at the grocery store. It's people that you're seeing when you're getting an oil change. Like, those are the people that are going through hard times occasionally and that we're serving at Good Sam. So when you go to our website, you can read the impact stories and see how we really do change lives. And then you can reach out to us through our website, indicate your interest, where you think you'd like to get involved. And we would love to have you get on board. And for the listeners, for your employees, I'd really just want to impress upon them that, how cool it is that you're part of a company at Berg Construction that actually cares about this. That means a lot. And I hope it means a lot to your employees, that you have a culture here that is intentional about making the community in which you work healthy. Because you're right, it benefits everybody. And I just want to encourage you guys, continue to do a great job, do what you do. We need companies to be successful and to do great. I mean, it really does have a trickle down effect. So even, if you're out there today excavating or whatever you're doing, like, it's more than that. It's a lot more than that. I mean, it really is making the community better and impacting a lot of lives.
Well, I appreciate you joining us today. It's been a lot of fun getting to know you a little better, getting to know Good Sam better, and just grateful for your time. So
Thank you. Had a blast.
Folks, thanks for joining us. We hope to catch you again soon on another episode. Have a great day.